MAGA Republican Congress members and Trump cabinet members are spiraling on live TV. They know that as Donald Trump tells people that affordability is one big hoax, Donald Trump and the MAGA brand continues to be tarnished because affordability is not a hoax. People are suffering, and the Trump regime is fueling that suffering and making it worse. And they seem to be spiking the football because their billionaire buds are making a ton of money while we, the people, are suffering. For example, this Congress member, Dan Mauser, says that Trump's message is that we're providing patriotic hope to the American people. Here, play this clip.
So waste, abuse, and fraud is being reined in. So all of that is going to contribute to a surge. Takes a little bit of time, but the president is the best at expressing and providing that patriotic hope that has real results.
Some say patriotic hope, others call it patriotic Ponzi scheming, or just outright fraud, as Donald Trump claims that he's brought in trillions of dollars, which he hasn't, as he claims he did all of these trade deals and peace deals, which he hadn't, and as he says that Americans are actually paying less and that they've solved inflation. That's what they call patriotic hope. I call it fraud. For example, you had Kevin Hassett, Donald Trump's national economic advisor, going on CNBC, which is basically MAGA light at this point, although they have an ultra MAGA host named Joe Kiernan. Here's what they discussed. Here's what Kevin Hassett, Trump's top economic advisor, had to say. Play this clip.
There's a huge amount of positive news that the president is going to be breaking this week about the economy. You know, we've got a person who actually approached the studio with me, walked with me, who's tracking the openings, the groundbreakings for the new factories that are, you know, in the trillions of dollars of announcements that the president's been making. And we're up to almost 30 of those that actually the groundbreakings have happened. And so there's a lot of positive news that's positive for people's jobs, for people's incomes, and for inflation. And President Trump is just going to go out there and remind people.
Well, maybe you should remind people that his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is now behind a group that also includes the Saudis, Trump's buds, the Qataris, Trump's buds and private jet benefactor, the Emiratis, as part of this group to do a hostile takeover right now of Warner Brothers after the other news broke that Netflix was intending to acquire Warner Brothers, as all pretense of antitrust law has been just totally destroyed under this Trump regime. But now Kushner is going to be fronting this group. And here is what Kevin Hassett had to say about Trump's involvement in the deal, that Trump is going to determine that we make the right choice, meaning Trump's going to pick who's going to be the antitrust violator. Here, play this clip.
Hey, Kevin, one other question. We've been batting around the table this morning was the president said just yesterday that he was going to be part of making the decision about this Netflix transaction with Warner Brothers. And at least the comment that we were making in the past is that the president, this president and presidents prior, I believe have never at least publicly declared their involvement in these decisions. They've historically been left to the antitrust department with inside of the Department of Justice. So how different is this, and how should we think about that?
Well, I don't think it's, just rare for presidents to have opinions about big society-changing mergers. But in the end, the Justice Department is going to study things like the Herfindahl Index, the concentration in this industry, the amount of competition that is reduced because of this big merger, and, what the responses of all the other companies that are playing in this space might be. That's going to be something that goes on for quite a while. And I think the president is just very interested in making sure that there's a lot of analysis to make.
We make the right choice, he said at the end. We make the right choice. I want to bring in Democratic Congress member, my friend Raja Krishnamoorthi, who's also running for the United States Senate seat in Illinois. Congress member, we had you on here before we even had 1 million subscribers, so it's great to have you back. Talk to us about what you just saw there, though. The Trump messages that everything's going great, everything's amazing. What do you make of it?
Well, I think that, I respect some of my Republican colleagues like Dan Mauser, but, patriotic hope is something that, even a dope is not going to buy right now, because when they go to the grocery store, they see prices surging for just everything from eggs to milk to coffee to you name it. And that's on top of healthcare costs spiraling. housing costs, electricity bills, pretty much everything is out of control in terms of prices. And, Donald Trump was, quote unquote, hired to deal with those prices. He didn't do his job. Instead, he's done everything else to make people's lives worse, whether it's sending ICE into communities like Chicago to act with impunity and out of control, and tearing families apart, or raising tariffs and destroying businesses, which is happening before our very eyes. So I think people aren't buying it. They can see and experience reality without Donald Trump having to interpret it for them, and they don't like what they're seeing.
You and I, back on after Trump announced those, what he called Liberation Day, or what I called Liquidation Day or Destruction Day, I think you and I were saying, they said 90 deals in 90 days. We said, just wait till that fraud, gets exposed. And then you and I kept on calling out these fake deals, and it just seems to be the repertoire of this regime is the way Trump defrauded people back when he was in business or a fraudster, pre-presidency fraudster. Now he just uses the presidency to announce fake peace deals. Hey, I did a peace in Congo. No, there's wars going on in Congo right now. I did a deal Thailand and Cambodia. No, you didn't. There's no real difference there. I did a deal. He just makes up these things. And I did $23 trillion that I brought in. And then it gets parroted, and it's like, you didn't do these things. Like every aspect of it's a lie. So I guess, how do we process that, Congressman, with the level of the lies, with the fire hydrant just pushing out these lies every day? How do you deal with them to say this is all fraud? He's just making every aspect of it. There's no relationship to truth.
Well, I think, first of all, I think people aren't buying it. And you can see that in polling data across the spectrum. People really feel like he is not living up to his promises and actually making things worse on the economy. And then we Democrats obviously have to speak to those issues and what we would do differently were we to take back the House, take back the Senate, of course, take back the White House, and basically address those economic pain points. I think when we do that, Ben, good things happen electorally. You saw that with the elections in early November, where Democrats were picking up seats in places that had never seen Democrats pick up seats, whether it's in Georgia or Mississippi. And of course, we picked up governor's mansions in New Jersey and Virginia. And so I think that people aren't buying it. We just have to keep pointing out the facts and, of course, pointing out what we would do different.
One of the things, and you're a lawyer, I'm a lawyer, although now I just play one on YouTube, is this DOJ. It used to just be a place where everybody wanted to work. It was so competitive to get that DOJ job. It was the best of the best lawyers who were sacrificing, income that they could have been making at large firms to work in the DOJ. And then they maybe go to private practice. Maybe they come back, but it was actually patriotic hope. It was actually what our country was all about. And we may disagree with some of their process, but these were good lawyers. Right. And now they put out these statements just like whining, like the one this morning, a statement from Attorney General Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche. Certain district courts and magistrate judges in the Eastern District of Virginia are engaging in an unconscionable campaign of bias and hostility against U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan and her line AUSAs. Lindsay and our attorneys are doing their jobs, advocating for the Department of Justice's position. We'll continue to fight. The people of Virginia deserve nothing less. This is someone who's never been a federal prosecutor before in Lindsay Halligan. She was like an insurance lawyer and not a good one who just now is somehow running the Eastern District of Virginia. She was disqualified because she was unlawfully appointed. They still pretend that she's a U.S. attorney, and then they act like this is in the interest of the people, and then they attack the judges across the political spectrum, Democratic judge, Republican judges. It's just like loser behavior. It's not even like a Democrat, Republican. This whininess, huh?
Yeah, it feels like sour grapes, that whole post that you put up. Look, let's just remind the viewers of what exactly happened here. There's a very specific law that governs the appointment of interim U.S. attorneys. The president is allowed to appoint an interim U.S. attorney for like 120 days, and then they have to go to the Senate and have a U.S. attorney confirmed, as most presidents have in the past. If that is not possible, then the U.S. District Court gets to appoint an acting U.S. attorney. Instead, Donald Trump just, as usual, in an unaccountable way, acting with impunity, had Halligan continue in her position and start issuing indictments of his political enemies, including people like Adam Schiff and Tish James and Mr. James Comey and others, and those got tossed. But that's one thing, and I'm glad that the judges did what they did in those cases, because they, those mortgage fraud cases are a joke. Those are the charges that he leveled against Tish James and Adam Schiff. But more seriously, there are actual criminals out there who are not getting prosecuted, or worse yet, they may be being prosecuted by these illegal acting U.S. attorneys. And my concern is that those particular prosecutions are also going to get tossed, and people, dangerous people are going to be let go, because the Trump administration is, again, acting with impunity, acting without accountability. And this is wrong, and it's dangerous.
It says Donald Trump is also pardoning the biggest narco drug traffickers like Juan Orlando Hernandez. He's pardoning the biggest Ponzi scheme frauders like Gentile, who commuted his sentence to 7 days, a guy who stole $1.6 billion, the human trafficking rings from Binance, and all of these groups that actually were found guilty or pled guilty. It's just terrific. Let's talk quickly about your race for the United States Senate, if we can, because it's a big race. It's a big deal. You've got early voting coming up soon as well. You've got your state particularly under attack by this Trump regime. So just talk to us briefly about, what would you do as the United States Senator right now to fight back and fight for the people, fight back against the regime, fight for the people?
Well, thank you, Ben. I think two issues are front and center for voters here in Illinois. One is, what are you going to do about those economic pain points that people are feeling because of the kind of chaos of Donald Trump? Prices are going through the roof, as we mentioned before, for daily staples like food, as well as electricity. But also tariffs are hurting businesses. And so as a former small business person, I feel uniquely suited to kind of dealing with these issues, especially because I've dealt with a lot of them in Congress over the past decade. The second set of issues has to do with accountability, holding the Trump administration accountable, an administration that is otherwise acting with impunity, as though they don't really report to the citizenry of this country and they can do whatever the heck they want, regardless of rules, regulations, the laws, or even the Constitution. And there, again, I've kind of issued an accountability agenda for what I would do right now, including such things as, continuing to shine a light on the harm that's being done with this administration's policies, especially to immigrants and other groups, but also pursuing what I call almost post-Watergate types of reforms to make sure we never go through this ever again. So, inserting a legislative inspector general within ICE, unmasking ICE agents so that they're held accountable, amending the Constitution to make it unambiguous that a third term is prohibited for a president, and amending the pardon power and so forth. Those are the types of reforms we need long term, because we have to recognize that the framers intended for a president to exercise his or her emergency or discretionary powers in a way to promote the American people's interests, not their own. Well, now we've been disabused of that notion with Donald Trump, and we've got to, as a consequence, amend the Constitution accordingly.
Where can people find out more about the campaign, Congressman?
www.rajaforil.com.
Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, an OG Meidas there from day one. You may have been there when we had 500,000 subscribers. You may have been.
Well, first of all, congratulations, Ben, on your incredible success. I can't tell you how many times people tell me, hey, you ought to go on MeidasTouch more. That's where I get my news, and that's where I get my information. So congrats on everything that you do, and thank you for your service, too.
Thank you. Great. Good luck on the campaign. And everybody knows early voting's right around the corner. Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.